right, welcome to Fins Talk Overtime. I'm your host, Bobby Melendez, joined by Bret and special guest just came in, James, Smart Guy James. James, what's up, brother?
How y'all doing, man? I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Good, man.
Bret?
We're glad to have you, especially after a 3-0 start, man. That's exciting.
Who would ever thought, man?
3-0.
Yeah.
Red hot start. Of course, there's gonna be some talk. We weren't gonna be talking about the game from yesterday because we discussed it, Bret, on post game.
Mm-hmm.
But since we got James here, let's dive into that just a little bit. James, man, Dolphins pull out a big win against the Buffalo Bills, supposed Super Bowl contender. People are raving. The defense, Tua, his numbers, whatever. Man, what are your thoughts process on the Bills game yesterday and it's a 3-0 start in general?
I think it's been one of these things to where, like, each game it seemed like really weird. You had the Ravens game, obviously really weird. And then this one, it's everybody's wanting to bash the defense. And, the Bills go on this 20-play drive and they end up with 3 or they miss a field goal. And then when you look at the totality of it, I mean, they held the Bills to 17 points offensively, right. 2 from safety. I mean, I think any game you say, hey, we can hold the Bills to 17 points on offense, I think you take that any day of the week. And I'll be honest with you, to me, the craziest thing, and people are going to come at me, but I'll tell you, I don't understand how in the world Tua came back into that game. I don't understand any medical doctor that's going to put him back on that field after that hit. I'm glad that he did. But you will never convince me that was a back injury and not a concussion. But either way,
I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did and didn't get hurt again. I'm really glad, especially against the Bills. I was kind of nervous in the second half. Like, oh, God, the Bills' pass rush is good. Then when he got sacked again, I'm like, oh, get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about that, that was a scary hit. I mean, and again, not more. I know people were reacting because of Teddy Bridgewater coming in, but I was more worried about his health. The whole, Elvis Presley shaking of the legs and falling down. That was pretty damn scary. But to come in and do what he did and he did turn it over or whatever. How have you felt? Because there's some people that were high on Tua before, whether you call it, two in ears, and then you got quote unquote haters, you got in-betweeners. But so this season in general, you don't have to talk about how you felt before. You can if you want. But right now, how are you feeling about Tua this season?
I think right now the biggest thing, the question mark for me is you need to see him stay healthy. Be able to play 17 games in a season. Performance-wise, and I mean, I'll go ahead and say it, everybody, I'm an Alabama guy. I am now, a Miami Dolphins guy because of Tua. However, I will tell you that of the people that have done that like me, I am probably the hardest on Tua than any of those. I don't think year 1 or year 2 was good enough. I think that there were issues. But this year I came in thinking it was a long shot that he was going to prove himself to be a franchise guy. But I was still a huge fan of the guy and wanted him to succeed. But I mean, this year there's not a single category that you can bring up that he's not top 10. I mean, at this point, I think if you're not impressed with what you're seeing, then I think you're just completely got blinders on and just do not want. You've made your mind up before this season, and it's not going to matter to you.
And that's the thing. If you're looking at Tua and you can't see that he majorly improved, you don't want to see it. And we still saw week 1 some things that hung over from last year, but you're just seeing things getting better. You and I talked about a lot in the offseason, intermediate passing. It had to get better. Deep passing was that's not that big of a deal. That comes as time goes on. But the intermediate passing is where elite quarterbacks live. And now all of a sudden Tua is being effective and efficient in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see if it continues on in this season. If it does, that's exactly what you want to see. But he's efficient downfield, and that's one of the things we talked about. If that's doesn't improve this year, good chance we're talking about looking for a new quarterback early on.
I told people that if he didn't improve in the intermediate range, that he'd be holding a clipboard. I mean, by the end of the season or next season. And I think it's funny. We talk about yak. Do you know what the the top 3 quarterbacks in YAC right now are Herbert, Mahomes, and Murray. Tua's 13th. So he's not this isn't he's throwing a 2-yard ball to Tyreek and he's taking it 90 yards every time. I would have never told you that of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, 3 weeks in, that Tua has the 9th highest attempted deep ball in the NFL. And when you look at intermediate, he was 51% completion percentage last year. He's at 66% right now. That's 4th in the NFL.
Yeah, that's really
it's a huge, a huge improvement for him and all those categories. Look, I looked it up. TDs deep, he's 2nd. Yards deep, 2nd. Completion percentage, 2nd. Attempts, the percent of attempts thrown deep, 9th. Intermediate, 1st in TDs, 6th in yards, 4th in completion percentage. There's not a single category that he's not top 10 in. So it's been extremely impressive. And look, I have to throw this out there. I've been the biggest hater during the offseason. Okay. And people, I'm not saying that they've arrived. I'm not saying they're the best in the NFL, but for as much hate as I give them, look, Tua is currently the 4th least pressured quarterback in the NFL, despite being blitzed. Okay. Yeah. The 3rd most in the NFL. So a huge improvement to the coaching staff with the offensive line. Of course, the 2, new additions, but the offensive line has been playing outside their mind, the first 3 weeks.
Especially compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier, you posted that the Dolphins only gave up 5 pressures to the Bills, 5 recorded pressures. So out of 22 dropbacks, that was something like 23%.
Yeah, around 23%.
And the Titans,
great.
Titans gave up 56% of their dropbacks they were pressured, and the Rams were at in the 40s. So that just shows you how much better. Now, of course, opportunities the Dolphins are going to field more. Maybe that number changes, but overall, with 22 dropbacks, that's still a good amount that the Dolphins did really well on compared to what they've done in the past.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we talk about more dropbacks, and like I said, I'm not crowning that they're there, but just last week Tua had 50 attempts. So we're not talking about a quarterback that's had 18 attempts, for 3 straight weeks. So my thing with Tua and the offensive line is I personally couldn't be happier with where they are right now. Let's hope that continues. You know what I mean? And to see they may not. Neither may be top 10 in every single category by week 9, but are they 50th, or 35th and different things category?
No, I 100% agree. And real quick, the one thing that I liked out of him is something that people aren't talking about enough. When you don't rush more than 2-3 at him, the Bills on the touchdown, I think, or the play to Waddle, they only rushed 3. The touchdown, I think they only rushed 3. So, if you don't rush him, he's going to find the ball. He's got the confidence to throw the ball. Now, it's quite a few times we've seen him under pressure make a play. So I'm not saying he can't make it under pressure. I'm just saying if you give him time, he's willing to throw the ball downfield and make a play. And that's something I'd really like to see. That if you're going to give me time, fine, I'm going to find a hole in your defense. I'm going to exploit it. That's what good quarterbacks do. So that's always been the challenge. With Brady, do I blitz him? Because he's going to find it. He's going to exploit it. The blitz. But then if I don't blitz him, give him too much time, he's going to exploit my defense. So the Tua is starting to reach that level to where it's if he starts seeing things a little bit better, I think he's going to hit that next level. But he's on the path, and that's all I wanted to see. Still some things on the film you watch. Okay, if he cleans this and this up. But now I'm not watching film oh my God, come on, Tua. Now I'm watching film all right, Tua, you add this and this to your game. You just took your game from good to excellent to great, So now it's just cleaning a few things up. But the whole offense as a whole unit has to get better anyway. That's the play.
So Bret, will you count yourself as a 2 and near now?
No.
Okay, I just want to ask. My bad. I just wanted to check.
But I'm supporting him because he's done enough to shut my big mouth up on him. You know what I mean? Hey, he's done enough for. I'm hey, you know what?
Well, what's the difference? Is it 3 years away from the hip injury now? Is it Coach McDaniel? Is it
everything?
Is it Nick Hicks? What's got him switched up? James? I'll start with you, brother. What got Tua playing his best football, pro football right now?
I mean, just to understand, I mean, I'm making assumptions no better than anybody else, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think that being 3 years post injury helps? Yeah. But, I've watched the kid since he took his first snap at Alabama. I think that having a coaching staff, having a scheme, having wide receivers, having people back him has done that, and just experience. I mean, usually when you throw rookies out there, they're going to throw 25, 30 interceptions in a year, play a full year. You add up the first 2 seasons, it's about equal to a rookie season. So, now we're starting to see beyond Tua being a rookie. So I think experience, scheme, play calling, coach was a very welcome thing for Tua. And even though it's difficult to have 3 different OCs in 3 years, I think that has helped him more than me personally. I think that's helped him more than the injury. But
technically, it's 4th, right?
Yeah.
Hey, but one of those guys is still on the team, so I'm still on the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So Miami pulls off a big win, and I have to say, and I saw someone tweet this earlier, and I agree. The Craycraft touchdown is probably more impressive than the long ones. That was just like, and you texted me, Bret, and I agree with you, man. That was
a laser.
That was a beautiful throw.
Yeah, that was that's a big boy throw. I remember Tannehill making a throw like that, and it was like the first throw you saw Tannehill like make that you're like, oh my, like that's an NFL throw right there. That was one of Tua's most impressive touchdowns. That was just a laser right between defenders,
where it needed to be. Yep.
And like if that was your first play you've ever seen of Tua, and people say he doesn't have a strong arm, you looks good enough to me. Mm-hmm. So that was impressive. And if he can do that, but you know why he had that laser? Because he had the rotation, because he drove into the ball too. Like his technique has been a lot better lately. But I had a lot to do with it.
Evan, I see everybody there. I want to thank everyone for watching. First of all, we're getting right into it, man. This is a 3-0 start for the Miami Dolphins. We've got a big game on Thursday night. So first off, let me get out of the way. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and watching it, which I did say, to Fitz Talk Overtime. Bobby, Bret, James, we're here. We're talking Dolphins. We're following up on recapping the Bills and the Dolphins, and we're going to be previewing the Bengals and Dolphins this Thursday night. Smash that like and subscribe button, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. We thank you for watching. Happy now, Evan? All right, moving on. All right. So Dolphins are 3-0. This game against Buffalo, we talked about it yesterday, Bret. To me, it was like old school football, but it was like a classic boxing match. The ending, counting down from 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2. It was like Rocky.
Oh my God.
I wish they would have played the Rocky song at the end. It would have been perfect. I remember, I counted it down in my living room. I was going nuts. But players were on the side. I mean, more Buffalo than Miami. My chest
was like pumping all.
Oh, dude! I know. People were dying on the sideline. Fans were throwing up in the stands. It was just a whole mess. The players are beat the hell out of each other. They're Now they turn around 3-4 days later. They took today off. Thursday night they play against a Bengals team that just came off a win. They started slow. They lost to what team did they play first?
They lost to the Steelers. They threw too many interceptions.
Yeah,
they still were in the game all the way to the end. If they had a long snapper, they might have won it. The long snapper didn't get hurt, so I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but So yesterday though, they beat the Jets 27-12. Joe Burrow finished the game with 23 out of 36 completed passes, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Taylor Boyd being his leading receiver with 105 yards, 4 receptions, and a touchdown. So
just like you expected coming into the season, Tyler Boyd to lead that offense.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying and of course Miami beats won yesterday. We talked about that with Tua's numbers, but I don't want to say that Cincinnati had an easier road to victory. Miami definitely worked for it. Before we get into the details, James, how confident are you that Miami's going to be healthy enough to play this football game or have a chance to win on Thursday night?
I think they got a chance to win. I mean, I think after the first 3 games, if you don't say that they have a chance to win, I think it would be a little bit of an understatement. I'm a little worried about, health. This is a tricky game. This is one that prior to the season, I had them losing because of the whole travel, short week type mentality. But I will tell you, I'm not really necessarily like overly worried anything about Cincinnati's defense, but you add Boyd, Higgins, Chase, together with their run game, and I'm a little worried about how we're going to be able to handle that. Uh, and look, our defense has played well, but at the same time, I think our defense still has a problem that they had last year. Our defenses cannot find their way to the quarterback unless they have a map, and we're sending 4 extra people. Which gets us into trouble. So I think the defense is going to have a tough time, in my opinion. We're going to have to play stout, hopefully get some turnovers and not just dropped, pick sixes. And I'm pretty confident that the offense can continue the same level of success we've seen the first 3 weeks.
All right. So you said originally you have it predicted as a loss. We did too at the beginning of the season, but let's hold it until the end to say if we switch that up. Bret, you have any response or follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Like this is a tough game. You play a division rival. I've had this as a loss for a while. Beginning of the year, I said they're going to win the first 2, lose the next game against the Bills, a tight one. Well, I was kind of right. They won a tight one. Then they go on the road after playing Buffalo, and that's what worries me. Like that was a hard fought game all the way to the end, and basically the team that was used to the heat kind of outlasted it and made the least amount of mistakes, but that's a good offense that they held to 17 points. So, but they're burnt out. They're exhausted. Who's going to get injured? And not that this is like a game that you can afford to rest players, but if someone's like not fully healthy, don't risk their season to push them to play Thursday night, in my opinion. It's just too short of a week to try that. So, and especially at thin positions like defensive back. So, like if X is still nursing that groin injury, I know we need him, but I'd almost like sit him if he's like not feeling good, but because he missed a quarter, missed a third quarter, something like that, or a quarter's worth. So I mean, like this is the scary part, but I mean, I like Mike McDaniel to match up against Zach Taylor and know what he's going to do. I think Zach Taylor's. I know he comes from that system, but I think Mike McDaniel is a little bit more involved in that system, has been around it longer. I think he'll try to. I think he'll know what Zach Taylor wants to do. It's just a matter of can they execute it.
Absolutely. So looking at this Bengals game again with Miami, what would you say? Especially if Howard's out, that's gonna be huge. But what are your key matchups for this game? Like, what are you looking at? When it comes to, is it Chase versus Howard?
Honestly, it's going to be the receivers, but I think it's going to be not so much. Well, Chase and Howard's going to be a key matchup, but it's going to be, I think, Boyd in the slot and Mixon. Our run defense hasn't been great. The Mixon worries me. Can we get Raekwon Davis back? That's a short week. He's had a knee issue, I guess, that came up this week. So I'm a little concerned about Mixon there. That's the biggest thing. And then it's like James said, you have to be able to get the pass rush home too. So it's going to be Jalen Phillips against the edge, Oak Ball against the edge, and they don't really have to have pass rush move to beat these guys. So if they can't beat these guys one-on-one, like a lot of guys have been this year, then we have a problem. But that's going to be key, though. The pass rush is getting in Burrow's face, forcing him to hold the ball, forcing him to make mistakes, which he has been prone to this year.
James,
those are the keys defensively, anyway.
Yeah, your key what's your key matchups for this game?
As far as on the Dolphins defense, I mean, I think X and Chase is going to be big, but I go beyond that. Who's matching up with Boyd and Higgins? Because I mean, like, I got my man Higgins in fantasy. I mean, so I hope I get to put him on the bench for somebody else. But no, I think they're pretty deep at receiver. I mean, I'm not comparing them to Waddle and Hill and getting in that debate, but I mean they've got a pretty well-rounded wide receiver group. So I think that's going to be interesting. And I think it would be I would be very happy if they could get to Burrow early and try to change, set the tone early on Burrow and get in his head and hopefully get him to start throwing some errant passes. So I think that's going to be the biggest, those are going to be the biggest matchups, in my opinion. Like I said, they give Tua a shot for his back, and I think he'll be fine, and I'm okay with the offense and getting things done.
if for whatever reason, because you bring up Tua in the back and whether it's the head, I know the NFL's put in investigation and all, et cetera. If for whatever reason Tua sits out this game, does Miami have a chance with Teddy Bridgewater?
Zero.
Yeah, I mean, about as many yards as he threw for. So that's how much of a chance they have. If they have, man, oh, God, like I know I was high on Skylar in preseason, but at this point, if Tua does get hurt, at least Skylar would be fun to watch. Holy my God, that was so hard to watch. I know he wasn't prepared, but geez, he'd be better than that.
Oh, it looks like
I'll be
Alex
honest
is back.
with you.
Go ahead.
I'll say, like, I almost think it's not really fair for backup quarterbacks. I mean, because like the number of snaps the starter gets, and then typically your scheme's going to be centered around your starter. Yeah. I think Jacoby Brissett's a lot better than he played last year in Miami. I don't think he fit the scheme.
I agree with that.
And stuff. Now, I'm not saying Jacoby Brissett's some great quarterback, but he was a lot better than he showed last season. So, I mean, I think it's a little fair, for backup quarterbacks, especially to come in a big moment, like we saw this weekend, or you have a backup quarterback come into a 3-0 team on prime time. I think it'd be difficult for anybody. So that's I say that to not really as an indictment to Bridgewater, but more to the situation. I don't know many teams that could lose, a QB or not have a QB, start a game against a team like the Bengals, who have started slow, but they've got a talented squad, and be pretty confident with it.
And I don't know if this scheme is much different than the Saints. I mean, it's different, but like concept-wise, Teddy's been in the league a long time. He's been in a West Coast offense pretty much his entire career. So I think he understands the concepts. If you give him time, it might be better. But, man, what we saw, it just looked rough. And it's a good point that's why I like developing guys. That's why I like drafting a young quarterback and developing as your backup, and then constantly having that fallback. Like, remember Matt Castle with the Patriots, and that's why those transitions work, because those guys fit. Like Nick Foles with the Eagles, those guys already know the system. They're familiar with it. So when they have to step in, they're stepping right into something they're familiar with. And then the coaches know how to call plays for them. But I'm pretty sure they're probably going to give Bridgewater a couple extra reps. I don't think they know what the NFL is going to do with this whole Tua thing with the concussion and all. And I don't know if the NFL has the power to say Tua has to sit or what. But I don't know. I think I would prepare Bridgewater just in case. I'd have a fallback plan for this.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, though, with this type of football game, you're 4 days out from a bloodbath, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Tua almost, gets bent in half or concussion, whichever way you want to believe. Howard is dealing with injury. Armstead is dealing with
defensive front.
Absolutely not. No, I know people bring it. I see you guys in the comments, and we're just rolling away here. But I see, absolutely right. I mean, but the Bengals' offensive line is giving up a lot. The Johnson 16 sacks in 3 games. I mean, you got to hope. And Bret brought it up for keys of the game. You got to hope that pass rush gets something. I know I think they got 2 sacks. Yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Did they finish with 2 sacks? You would hope that they
it's 2 sacks, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2 sacks, but you would hope that they would do more of that this game. They have to rattle Joe Burrow. They can't give Burrow a chance to get hot with those receivers. They had that opportunity, and whether if Howard is out, 4 sacks. Thank you, sir. If Howard is out, that's going to be huge. But James brings up a great point. T. Higgins, who's also on my fantasy team, those receivers, they're deep. And I don't think they mix in another back. I think they did get 100 yards rushing on the ground, but not in total. I think total rushing 100 yards, but neither of them hit 100 yards yesterday. But that's the thing about them. They have all-around talented team on offense. Miami can't leave points on the field. It's going to have to be like Buffalo. You're going to have to score, But I don't see this as like a high-scoring game, Brett, like we talked about Buffalo last week or Saturday.
I mean, the Bengals scored the most they've scored all season with 27 this week.
Exactly.
They've won 20, or they lost 20-17 and lost 23-20. I don't see it high scoring at all.
I don't see it high scoring because especially since it's Thursday night, this coming off a short week. it's going to be it's not going to be a big score game. I know some people want to hope that, and the offense obviously has the ability to do that with that type of talent that the Dolphins do, and especially Cincinnati. But I don't see it like that. Okay, so Dolphins are 3-0. They've had a great run so far. It was a defensive win for New England facing New England. Offense all the way coming back, 6 touchdowns, 2 blah blah with Baltimore, huge win. Then this one, it's as Evan has said, it's more heart. I would say it was a defensive thing, but 3 wins in. Who's impressed you, James, with the Dolphins the most in this 3 wins, and who's disappointed you the most?
Disappointed Phillips.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Impressed the most. I mean, I don't think you can really say Tyreek's impressed. I mean, we've seen this throughout his career.
Almost expected, right?
Yeah, Waddle's been good. I'll actually go this route. I'd have to say, I guess I call it a toss-up tie. I'd say Connor Williams or Robert Hunt.
I like those. Okay.
I think, Robert Hunt, I think, was a little oversold last year. I don't think he was good. He was good on a terrible line, but he played sort of mediocre. And I think this year he's stepped up and been a guy that we've had to push to right tackle for 2 plays, come back to right guard. And he's been asked to do a lot, and I think he's answered the bell. And I think Connor's done stepped in and done a decent job at center as well.
And you could tell he's got some learning there, Connor, but he's getting it. It's getting better for him. Then the snaps here and there. I mean, he's been good. Yeah, I have to agree with that. But you're right. Thank you for saying that about Hunt, because Hunt's been serviceable up until this point. Now all of a sudden he's been good. So that's a hell of a point. And it's something I've said, but not really hammered, because, we didn't have much to brag about the offensive line, and Hunt was our only one. I was like, you know what? We can make something out of him. And every time he gets kicked over to tackle, he seems to do a good job. So I like Hunt too.
So would you agree with that list, or do you have your own most impressive, most disappointing?
So I agree with that list. I definitely disappointed in Phillips. I was hoping he would have more pass rush repertoire by now. I really was hoping he would be more productive early on as a pass rusher, but it's the same thing. He's just kind of speed rushing, just trying to bang his head against a wall. And it kind of reminded me like Brian Burns. He just has to figure out those moves and set it up. We'll see what happens going forward. Hopefully he can develop it throughout the year, but more likely next year. But I'll throw another one out there. I'm a little disappointed in this year, and that's Oakball so far. Now, he's not playing bad, but he's not playing good like he was. It's still early. I think he'll be fine, but I want to see a little more from Oakball. I want to see him take over the games a little bit more. Now, impressed with, I have a couple names I'll throw on there. One, Melvin Ingram. I did not.
Yes.
We know who a Melvin Ingram is, but he's older. Remember I said he's a good rotational guy, and that's what he's been. But he's been more than I was expecting from him. He's been more dominant than I expected. He's made plays, and when we needed the plays, and I've noticed the 2 fumble recoveries he's right there, and then he's bullying the left tackle back in the pocket. So that was something I like to see. That was exciting to see him do that, because that's the most pass rush we got, and I was expecting Ingram to not really offer that at this point in his career. But I'd also say, not so much Needham, but Kader Kohu, Crossan, all these young corners that have stepped up in the absence of Byron Jones, who have stepped up and made plays, and even Eric Rose been dinged up and not playing as much. I've been really impressed with those guys. I think Holland and Waddle have been really impressive, but Waddle's stepping up huge. But you kind of expected those guys to take that next step, and Waddle's been really stepping up, even when Hill's on the sideline. But you expected that, like James said. So I really think the young corners stepping up in place of Byron Jones has been very impressive. And they've been in a tough spot, but I think they've done a very, very respectable job considering.
I think you guys are hitting them right on the money. The only one I think is, obvious too is, or not as obvious, but I guess it would have been easy, was for Tua, how he's performed early in the season so far.
Disappointed with him already, Bobby? Come on, you can't give him a whole season.
No, I said I'm impressed. I'm impressed with him.
Oh, sorry.
I'm impressed with him. I know. I'm not saying I'm
I
disappointed.
channeled my inner Evan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, he's already giving me a hard time in there, but no,
I'm
I
disappointed
think
he didn't throw for 400 yards again this week. God, well, that's ridiculous.
Jeez, against Buffalo. Come on, man. No, but Tua's been impressive. There's guys that have had big, and I know we say with weapons like Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, you should be throwing big yards, et cetera, but it's not that. It's like that Craycraft throw. That was more impressive to me than the deep ball. Even though, and the Jalen Waddle one, which was 45 yards, that was perfect, right on the money. As he was running, there was no turning, there was no stopping.
No, that was
great.
so nice. You give him time, and he steps up, makes the play, man.
Exactly.
It's the prettiest deep ball he's thrown in his NFL career.
So he's really go ahead.
That's the prettiest deep ball he's thrown.
Oh, the one to
NFL
Waddle,
career.
yes,
yeah,
two
absolutely.
clutch throws to Waddle, two big time clutch throws that he threw, and so I mean that's the difference. I mean, and like I think we were bringing Evan brought it up too. I know he'll get mad at me if I say it. I don't mention it, but is that if that Baltimore game when they were being blown out, Teddy Bridgewater more than likely would have came out. McDaniel sticks with Tua, and Tua, it was a team effort. The team, the defense held fourth downs, the Waddle, Tyreek, et cetera. But Tua threw 6 touchdowns, clutch throws. Yesterday, 2 big-time clutch throws to Waddle, both, I think, on the same drive that led to the Chase Edmonds touchdown. So I've been very impressed with Tua so far this season. And I think Jalen Phillips is a great one. I think that's as a disappointment. You want to see more. He did start slow last year, and as the season went on, he went on that run. Maybe I don't know if that's.
I'm not burying the kid. I'm definitely not burying because he's too talented. But I need to see more. Like I need to see more of my first round pick.
Who would you have taken?
Like taken at that pick?
Yeah, if you weren't going to take Phillips.
I'm going to get killed for it, but I actually really like Rosso. But I like the Phillips pick. Like I wasn't even complaining. I was like, man, that's a good pick. All right, I like that. He fits, but I was hoping he have a little more pass rush moves. But I'm not mad at the pick at all. It's not like it's like, oh my god, it was a trash pick. You know what I mean?
No. No, and that's what I think. He's in his second year, but I agree. He has been disappointing so far because of and he's put in the work this offseason. Yeah. He looks in better shape, et cetera, but it's just not translating to the field. You got a response, James?
I was just going to say, so it wasn't like when you saw the pick, it wasn't like a Noah Igbenogany pick.
No. God, no. No, like Noah's pick, I'm like,
it's just depressing.
Like, Austin Jackson pick, I'm like, okay, I don't like it. I don't hate it, but I'm like, okay, I understand it. The Jalen Phillips pick, didn't hate it at all. It took me a second. I'm like, okay, I like that pick. But the Noah pick, I'm like, I don't get it. And they're like, oh, he's athletic, he's a freak. And I get that. I like athletic freaks, but what are we getting out of him?
Hey, but with McDaniel, who has said every year he wants to push for an edge rusher, so might be more often than not that Miami may be going that route. Okay, guys, so we cut it short and sweet. I think it's perfect. We all chose, as James brought up earlier, we all chose Miami. And for me, it was 2 wins at the beginning, 2 losses, so it would have been 2-2 to get out and eventually face the Jets. Dolphins are 3-0 right now. The way the Dolphins are going, James, you had them losing to the Bengals originally. Have you kept that the same? What's your prediction for Thursday Night Football?
You want to score too?
Yes, sir. If you got it, it's okay if you don't.
Right. Let's go 28-17 Dolphins.
All right. Yeah, all right. 4-0. Okay, Bret, break some hearts. What do you got, man?
Oh man, so I'm actually not going to break any hearts because the more I thought about it, the more I kind of hinted to it with Zach Taylor. I actually have more faith in Mike McDaniel than Zach Taylor, and you see what Zach. I don't know if last year's a fluke because I still think Burrow's a legitimate quarterback and they have a legitimate offense, legitimate defense, offensive line. So they're in their own way right now, but I don't really have a lot of faith in Zach Taylor. I think Boyer will probably scheme something up and get after him. This is going to be the slowest quarterback, even though Burrow's athletic. This is going to be the slowest quarterback they've faced since week 1. You know what I mean? Like, you just come off Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. This is going to seem like a cakewalk compared to those two as far as speed, like chasing them around goes. But, not that he's not fast, but I think, I think they're going to play well. I think the Bengals are like just frustrated right now. And I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Dolphins pull this one out. I think it's going to be 27-20. So, but
you almost hit my thing right on the head. I was about to say, you said 20. So okay. I think you guys are both right. I did have this as a loss, but just the way this team is going, and again, I think it's Mike McDaniel. That is the X factor. What a change. I mean, just the Dolphins have been 3-0 before, even in recent history, and it's not like these one. This is a different type of 3-0, and they've won it different ways. The fun thing about this team is they haven't had a complete team win yet. Offense, defense, special. It's been defense, offense, whatever the hell yesterday was, a defense if you want to call it.
I hope we see some complimentary this week.
This should be a full team win. There has to be a full team win.
Has to be.
They have all three phases. They need to get us done. And Ralph, we'll get to that question right now. But for me, I also changing my pick. I had the Dolphins winning 27-24 on Thursday Night Football. So we've all switched those picks up, which is awesome. And I'm nervous about it because it is a short week and the Dolphins got, even though they won, they got their asses kicked. They're beat up. But I think the Dolphins pull this out. I think they go 27-24 and take out the Bengals. Ralph says, and I've heard this a lot of people have been bringing this up, Channing Tindall. What's going on with him, Bret? What do you think?
Not ready yet. He was sick week 2, right? He was going to be active sick week 2. He was active this week.
He was active yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him.
He didn't get much playing time. I wanted to see him a lot more with Josh Allen. I don't think they were ready to put him out there. I think we could see him a lot this week. I think Baker played 90-something% of his snaps this week. Roberts is
Baker
dinged up.
Well.
So, yeah, and I think we can see Tyndall a little bit. Duke Riley hasn't been as bad, as I would expect as much as he's been playing. But I think Tyndall is better, and I would love to have Tyndall on that defense. I think he offers a little something. So I'd like to see him a little bit this week. It'd be a perfect week to kind of showcase what he can do. But I just don't think he's quite ready yet. There's a lot of responsibility in the middle linebacker position, which is why they keep Landon Roberts, which to our dismay, it's smart. He knows the defense, he knows the signals, he knows when to switch it up, he knows who to send, who to back out. So he's making all these calls. And if you watch, even in the coverage, he's not great in coverage, but he's making the calls. He's making calls to X and all as their defense or offense is moving. So I think that's where Tyndall's trying to learn all that, which is a lot. Plus, he's also developing as a linebacker. He didn't get a lot of playing time at Georgia, so sky's the limit for him. But it's just a matter of learning everything mentally, which I think we kind of already knew going forward.
Absolutely. And Evan says, "Smart guy is a smart guy." That's why we got him on. All right, smart guy.
Evan's my favorite guy.
But look, if you're not following him, seriously, give him a follow. You shout out your handle for it, but stats. He's always putting out the stats right after the games, putting out graphics about it. It's awesome. And it's not just here's the game stats. It's all different stats you don't just see just by looking at box scores. So follow him. It's good stuff. It actually has helped me kind of do some evaluations based on the numbers he's giving me. So make sure you give him a follow. It's a great follow.
What's your Twitter handle, James?
At SmartJames1981.
Perfect. All right. So there you guys have it. James, you have any final words, brother, before we close it out?
Nope. Evan's my favorite. The bridge over troubled water was a great reference that I earlier. I wanted to call that out. That was fantastic comments. It has been a blast, and I do just want to leave here pointing out that everybody watching, I did have the Miami Dolphins winning by more points than everybody on this panel tonight. Okay, so if the Miami Dolphins win in a blowout, come talk to me, okay?
He's right. I wrote him down. He said by 11. I said by 7. Bobby said by 3.
Oh, come on now. The Bengals, don't make me defend it. It's still a win. You're going to get Evan and everybody in the book here yelling at me.
4-0. All I care is about that goose egg in the loss column right now.
4-0. That's all I want. 27-24. All right, but we all have wins. That's all that matters. And if the Dolphins win by 11, you won't hear at the end of it from Smart James. Until then, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Smash that like and subscribe button. Fins Talk Sports that we have the premiere episode of Real Talk Fins Talk tomorrow with Steve and Rob. And then, of course, the Fins Bandwagon with Evan, Hank, and Justin from Digging in the Trenches. So that's tomorrow night. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Fins up.
Fins up.